Hi, I'm Paul, and this is my first podcast, which I call, for better or worse, An Old Man Sitting on His Porch. Although I'm not on my porch at this time due to the cold weather in the Chicago area, I decided to start this podcast basically to let off a little steam and get a few things off my chest. Whether anyone ever listens to it or not, I'll call it homegrown therapy. A couple of decades back, when the younger generation might think of as the dark ages, I had a blog. However, at that time, I was very busy with the law practice and I couldn't keep up with it. I didn't have any spare time at all. Now that I've seen 8 decades of my life and seen 15 presidents go by during my lifetime, I don't really have anything of great consequence to do except sitting on my porch and contemplating the world as it goes by. I'd like to present some thoughts which you may wish to think about, as well as my take on the world around us, including the good, the bad, and maybe the extremely ugly. Always remember, it's only my opinion. Feel free to disagree or agree. That's your choice. Because this is my first episode, I'd like to start out with something that is very important to me and on the good side. What I'm about to say also is about setting the entire course of my life, including how it may end. Today is November 11th. It's Veterans Day. Although we cannot forget those who died in a war, I hope to be around to cover that on Memorial Day. That's the day honoring those people who didn't just go into the service, but gave all for their country. I came from a military family. In fact, I was born into the Army at Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C., 82 years ago. My children and my grandchildren and those who come after me will look back and maybe with some pride at their family's service will give us a shout out. My grandfather served with Teddy Roosevelt in the Spanish-American War. My father was a career Army officer and started out in the horse cavalry, actually riding horses, and went on to serve in World War II and also in Korea. My brother also served in the Army, which included his action in Vietnam, for which he received the Bronze Star. My sister also served in the Army and received several meritorious citations and decorations as well. They also have my wife's great-great-great-grandparents who served in the American Revolution. Thankfully, they were all on the right side. And her great-grandfather who fought in the war between the states. I enlisted in the Army right after graduating from high school. There was a lot of good in my time in the service. There was also, unfortunately, some bad. I, too, served in Vietnam. That was the bad. 54 years, I should say 54 years after my return, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is a terminal cancer. It was also the result of my sleeping for months on top of ground circ, just literally soaked with Agent Orange, not your everyday Roundup weed killer. Of course, at that time, we didn't have any idea of what effect it would have on us, and that death would ultimately follow us home. However, in my current physical condition, no matter how bad it may get, I would not take $1 million for the time I spent in the service of our country. As I said at the beginning, my time in the service, even with cancer and PTSD, shaped my life, which has been a great one. I went in at the age of 18, and 6 years later, due to the maturity rate of being in the Army, it seemed like I got out at the age of 40. I'm forever thankful to be surrounded by my brothers and my sisters who have gone in harm's way from Vietnam to Afghanistan, and who, along with my family and friends, are a major part of my support group going forward. I'm also thankful for tremendous help, both physically and mentally, from the Veterans Administration and all of the staff, both medical and peer support, at Hines Hospital outside of Chicago. This holds true for all veterans hospitals around the country, including organizations such as the Fisher House. Due to the uncertainty surrounding the Department of Defense and Veterans Administration at this time, with highly decorated combat officers being fired without explanation, I worry about the future of all veterans and acting service members who have honorably and are honorably serving our country. Because of my time in service, I gained the maturity to appreciate life. And having lived with death while in Vietnam, I'm better able to face it now. Service gave me the ability to clearly see my future through undergraduate, graduate, and law school, marriage, career, children, grandchildren. Unlike the classes I taught as a law professor, I'll try and make this introductory podcast brief. If you see an old guy like me, or a man or a woman of indeterminate age, wearing a veteran's baseball cap or a t-shirt like the one I've got on, uh, which indicates service to our country, please say thank you for your service. I can't express how grateful I feel when someone says that to me. Whether they served 80 years ago or are serving today in the armed forces, or whether they served in combat or not, that person deserves the gratitude of every man, woman, and child in our country, and probably more than a few million people around the world. Today is the day of acknowledgement of their service. In future talks, I'll go into many things, including what I think about the state of today's military based on my own personal experience, both as a soldier and civilian, about politics, about life, and what it's like to be an old man sitting on the front porch. Thank you for listening, and I hope to talk to you very shortly about many, many other things. If you found this podcast of interest and would like to see inside an old man's mind, please like and subscribe.